All right, Miles, let's talk about the South Carolina Gamecocks a little bit. This is a team that obviously finished the regular season on a high note. Big victories against Tennessee, big victory against Clemson to finish out the year, becoming state champions once again. It's been a long time for Carolina Gamecocks to claim that. Obviously, the bowl game against Notre Dame didn't go the way they wanted to, but there's been a lot of good news, a lot of good vibes for the South Carolina Gamecock organization. It looks like there's even more good news coming. And I know you got the latest there at a guy returning at an absolutely key position. But before I hand it over to you, Miles, to get the latest on that story, Gamecocks fans, we want to hear from you in the comment section below. Coming into the spring season, the recruiting season, the transfer season, all that kind of stuff, let us know one position you hope that South Carolina really addressed through the recruiting game, the transfer portal, or any of that, however they went about doing that. Give us one position that you thought was a weakness last year that they did a great job, or you hope they do a great job addressing in the offseason. But Miles, give us the latest out of Columbia.
Yeah, Nick, it's official. Everyone knows at this point Spencer Rattler has announced he's going to return to South Carolina for his senior season. And this is huge for the program, Nick. This is a program that kind of has suffered at stability in the quarterback position lately. They've gone, ever since I say Jake Bentley left, there's been tons and tons of turnover at the quarterback position, and nobody seemed to really have great play. And that's the thing about Rattler. He kind of started off this season a little shaky, in my opinion, but especially these last 3 games against Tennessee, Clemson, and even the loss against Notre Dame, he played lights out. You saw against Tennessee, he was 30 for 37, 438 passing yards, 6 touchdowns. Incredible play there. Against a pretty awesome defense in Clemson, he was 25 of 39 for 360 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then against another decent defense in Notre Dame, he was 246 yards, 2 touchdowns again. So, he down the stretch played really good against some really high caliber teams. And I think South Carolina is going to love to have a guy like this come back into the fold just because he started getting hot. He started to really kind of mesh in the Shane Beamer system. I think he was looking really nice, Nick, and I think they're going to like to have a guy that they can depend on. And hopefully he plays great over the course of a whole season because they really are going to be contenders potentially for that SEC title game if he played the way he did the last 3 games over the course of a whole season.
Yeah, I think you hit on all the major points. The thing for me when I look at Rattler's career up to this point is overcoming adversity, because obviously he was the guy going into Oklahoma. He starts, eventually he gets pulled for Caleb Williams. He goes to Columbia. Things are kind of up and down for a few weeks, right? Turnovers are a little bit of a problem. The offense isn't that productive. Then he has that monster finish to the season, like you alluded to. So overcoming adversity, kind of that senior veteran leadership, I think that's going to be big for Carolina going into next season because they do have higher expectations to potentially contend, maybe with the likes of Tennessee and Georgia, top of the SEC East. And what that means is anytime you're in a brutal division like the SEC East is, right, you're going to lose games, right? You're either going to get a disappointing upset in a trap game, or you're going to play Georgia and get smacked, or, just the way it works, right? You're going to lose a game. It's the SEC. It's going to happen. You need a guy at this ship that's overcome some adversity, that's battled through some bad times, because one of the things you don't want to happen is you don't want to collapse and implode. A great example of that is like the Florida Gators. The Florida Gators, I'll say this, in terms of roster, I'd say they probably have more talent than a team like Carolina, but they're mentally weak. They don't have leadership at the top, especially at the quarterback position. And so when things fall apart for Florida like they did early in the year, even though they had talent, in my opinion, to be like a top 15 team, they collapse. A guy like Spencer Rattler brings the opposite to South Carolina. He brings stability, leadership, been there before, been there, done that kind of mentality. So that way, when things don't go right over the course of a game, or they have a bad game or a bad 2-game out of 3 stretch, he has the mentality to kind of steady the ship and keep this football program going forward. Because I think that's really the next step for a program like South Carolina. You kind of alluded to it with stability at the quarterback position. You want to kind of like raise the baseline of your program, right? You don't want to go 6 wins this year, 8 wins this year, 6 wins this year, 9 wins next year, 6, you kind of want to be 8 wins, 8 wins, 8 wins, 10 wins, 8 wins. You want to kind of have that raised floor of expectations where you're always at a certain baseline. And one of the things you need to have that is stability, consistency, and the ability to overcome bad games. And I think Spencer Rattler will bring that going into 2023.
And yeah, Nick, the last point I want to finish off here is Spencer Rattler definitely has the pedigree to be a top-tier quarterback. And I think if he continues this play, it'll be looking forward to the draft next year. But coming out of high school, listen to this, 5-star quarterback. We all know that. He was big time at the Elite 11 camps. Number 11 player in the country. Number 1 pro-style quarterback coming out of high school. So this guy can do it, and I really am looking forward to watching him play this season.